Hi, I'm Jen Drummond. Welcome to Seek Your Summit. As a mom, a business owner, and the first female to climb the 7-second summits, I realize that the mountains we climb are a part of our success. And it is up to us to go beyond that success into a life of significance.
Hi, welcome to the Seek Your Summit podcast. We are in the Breakproof series, episode 6, covering chapter 4, setting yourself up for support. This chapter is a struggle bus for me. I love to give help. I really struggle in asking for help. And let me tell you, the sooner you can figure out how to have people in your corner help you out, the further, farther, and faster you will go in whatever your pursuit may be. So this chapter was highlighted in my journey of climbing Mount Everest, which I do not get to in the book. So you're going to need to buy this book, Breakproof, 7 Strategies to Build Resilience and Achieve Your Life Goals, because these episodes just support the material. They do not replace it. But back to my story on Mount Everest. Some of you may know that this whole pursuit started because I was training to climb a mountain named Ama de Blanc, and my son changed that to Mount Everest, and then my coach changed it to the 7-second summits. But on Everest, I was more worried about how my kids were going to be taken care of and what was going to go on at home than I was about climbing the actual mountain. I mean, seriously, the reason why I didn't think I could climb Everest is because I couldn't be away from home that long. So I started listing all the things that were working against me to climb Everest. And when I started listing those things down, it allowed me to look at each thing individually and figure out a solution for it. So one of the things I was worried about was being away from home for so long. There was no way I could raise 7 children and be away from home for 6 to 8 weeks, which is the typical expedition for Mount Everest. So when I was looking at that, I was trying to figure out, how do I cut out time on the mountain to keep time at home? And when I was meeting with my doctor, getting physical clearance to be able to climb Everest, he talked to me about renting an altitude tent. I'm like, I don't even know what an altitude tent is. And an altitude tent mimics the lack of oxygen environment that you'll experience on Everest. And so I called this company named Hypoxico, and I rented a tent for them, which I ended up buying. And if you're going to get into big mountains for a long period of time, highly recommend you try them out. Not sponsored. I bought this tent, and my protocol was to sleep in it at night. And when I slept in it at night, I changed the oxygen levels in the air to mimic what I would receive at Everest. This allowed me to get all the way past Camp 1 at home, which means I could fly directly into base camp, save over a week there. I could save 1 rotation on the mountain because I would be able to acclimate at home. The problem is we don't really know if this is going to work or not until we actually get there. But since Everest was kind of a training mountain for K2 and really wasn't part of the 7-second summits, I was willing to allow it to be a training mountain. And if I didn't summit, that's okay. Hey, I was trying for Everest. Not many people even try to climb Everest. So that took care of that problem. And just a little teaser to let you know that it helped me immensely and was this huge success, which is why I'm a big fan of Hypoxico and their tents for preparing for altitude expeditions. But back onto the pursuit. I was looking at all the other things that were preventing me from feeling confident about going there. And the biggest one was my kids. Who was going to take care of them? How were they going to fare if I was gone? We had changed the expedition from being gone to 6 weeks to about 3 weeks. 3 weeks still felt pretty long, but it felt doable at their ages. I called my mom, my nanny, everybody else filled in at home. And then I decided to go to the kids' school. And I went to the kids' school to talk to the teachers. I just said, hey, I wanted to let you know in the next couple months, I'm going to go leave to climb Mount Everest. And I'm going to be gone from home for a little bit. And while I have a lot of help set up at home, I know how kids can be when their parents are gone. And I just wanted to give you a heads up so that you could offer them a little bit of grace. And this teacher that I had this great idea. She's like, Jen, why don't you come in and teach the kids about setting Everest-like goals? And we'll do a whole curriculum around this. And you have a tracking device on you, right? Yes, I do. She goes, we'll track you while you're in the class. The classroom will track you while you're out in the mountain. And then it will not feel like you're gone as long. I thought this was a great idea. So I went into the school. I talked about setting your Everest goal. Little kids colored hikers, and on their backpacks, they had what their goal was. Some of the goals were be able to ski a Black Diamond ski run, make the travel soccer team, be able to bike to grandma's house. I mean, there's all different versions of it. It was pretty cute. And then in the front of the school, we made a huge mountain. And then we put a little hiker, which was me, on the mountain. And as my tracking device updated, they would be able to move me up and down the mountain depending on where I was. So all of a sudden, that felt pretty good. And it was time to leave. So I left. I went to the mountain. I found out that I had Wi-Fi at base camp. Thank goodness for technology. And so when I was at base camp, I would Zoom call into the different classrooms and answer questions that the kids had about Everest, mainly where did I go to the bathroom and what did I eat? Appropriate age questions. And then they followed me. And I will tell you, I was on the ladders, which if you've seen any photos from Everest, those are kind of the photos they share on TV, where these huge ladders bridge crevasses. And I, as a hiker, have to go across these ladders with my shoes and hope that I don't fall into this massive crevasse on a non-OSHA approved ladder, that when I step on one end of the ladder, the other end goes up in the air and all these other crazy, scary things. Well, I was freaking out. I had no idea I had a fear of heights. I had done ski resorts, I'd done skyscrapers, I've been in all kinds of height situations. But on this mountain at this time, I was so fearful. I knew when I was climbing Everest, I was going to have hard moments. I just didn't know when those hard moments were going to be. So I had prepared for hard moments. I had a playlist that I could listen to. I had a photo of my children that I could look at and connect to when I was scared. I had letters that I wrote to myself. I had letters that others wrote to me. I had an orange-scented oil stick to kind of remind me of Florida oranges and take me out of this crazy environment that I was in. I had all the stops. And in this particular situation, I used them all. All of a sudden, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I do not want to cross this ladder. And then finally, I regrouped with myself because my whole team crossed. Everybody was safe. They were cheering me on. And I thought, man, all those kids in those classrooms are watching. I need to show them that when we're scared, we can still do things. We don't have to be paralyzed by our fear. So I sat and I thought to myself, what's the one thing I can say that's going to get me across this ladder? And the thing was, safe step. So I repeated out loud as I crossed this ladder, safe step, safe step, safe step. I had to swallow my heart a few times and not look down and just keep saying safe step. And I finally made it across the ladder. My team on the other side, we celebrated like it was the 4th of July. It was so much fun. And I'm telling you, it's really important to celebrate these things because you have a whole bunch of energy in your body that you don't know what to do with. You need to teach your body to metabolize that and turn that into a good success story for you to use in future endeavors. Well, I got to the top of Everest and I came home and I got to talk to all the kids and let them know that whatever our Everest is, we are capable of climbing and summiting. And it was such a great story. But it was such a great story because of the support. Had I climbed Everest all by myself, I'd be like, okay, here I am, done and down, no big deal. But the amount of people that went into this endeavor is still mind-boggling to me. Because here's what happens. I have people at home taking care of my kids and the cats and bills and all the things that go on at the house so that I can go climb there. When you're on the mountain, you have Sherpa and porters who are helping you carry gear up the mountain and take care of you there. You have chefs that are cooking you food. You have people that are building tents. When you climb Mount Everest, they have teams dedicated to managing sections of the mountain. So the icefall, which is the most dangerous part, there's a group of Sherpa that are called the icefall doctors. And those guys work together to keep that section of the mountain open and safe. And there's different sections of the mountain that are managed by different teams and people put the ropes in. I mean, The amount of people and things involved for me to climb Everest is mind-blowing. And it made me realize big mountains take big teams. So if you're sitting on the other side of this, listening to this conversation, I want you to think about that big goal that you're trying to achieve. And are you starting to try to compromise or cut it back or say like, haha, I was just kidding? I'm going to ask you to stop for a second and think, do I have enough people helping me to make this goal a reality? Because if it's a big enough goal, there's no way you're able to do it by yourself. You're going to need people on your team so that you can get it all the way done. And I'm telling you, when you have people on your team, it's even that much more fun to chase the goal because you have people to experience it with, build stories with, and come to the other side with. So this chapter is all about setting yourself up for support. And there's a lot of different types of support that you can have in your life. One key thing is having a mentor. I had never climbed Everest before. I had never really climbed a mountain before. I didn't even know anybody that climbed Everest. And so what I did is I started looking for somebody that had. I found a coach that climbed Everest, that had trained other people for Everest. He introduced me to people that had climbed Everest before, and he helped me interview companies that guide people up Everest and all these different things. His wisdom changed the game for me at a whole other level. It normalized climbing Mount Everest. It made it seem possible. It made it seem doable. I could trust him because he'd been there. So I could share with him my concerns, my setbacks, my training, and all the different things. And he was there to guide me all the way up the mountain from wherever he was. And so when you're setting a big goal for yourself, who is your mentor? Who's going to help you get to where you want to go? And not only do we need mentors, but we need cheerleaders. We need that friend that when we're feeling in the dumps and we don't want to do it and whatever is going on, they're there to be like, no, let's go. You got this. This is who you are. You were made for this thing, right? So if you are running a company, you're running a family, you have a climbing goal or a fitness goal, you need to make sure that you have people on your team that are cheerleaders and can help you when things get hard. And a key to that is making sure they know that they're the cheerleader. The worst thing you can do is call one of your friends that you think is a cheerleader and you go down the rabbit hole of negativity and then them join you. That's not cheerleading. So I always let my friends know, I'm like, gosh, you're such a good friend to me and you always help me through my hard times and I'm having a hard time. I need you to be my cheerleader today. Can you help me out? And if you let them know what you need, they know how to show up for you. It can be what you need and help you solve that situation. We also need constructive critics, okay? These are the people that are being honest with us and not just sugarcoating everything we're trying to do. When I was training for Everest, my coach that I was training with in the mountains would always say, listen, you need to have your gear more organized. You cannot just throw everything into that backpack. If it's windy and blowing sideways and you need to get something out of there, you need to know exactly where it is in that pack. You don't have time to mess around. And you can't let a glove blow away or have these little things get in your way. So this person cared about me, but they were definitely poking at me and they're trying to find every single thing wrong with what I was doing to keep me safe. So in your pursuits, you want to make sure that you have a constructive critic on your team that's telling you what you need to hear so that you can get where you want to go. Industry peers, okay? Your colleagues, your coworkers, people in the same industry. These are important people because they're going through what you're going through, perhaps at a different company. So you can relate stories and talk about deals and talk the same jargon and language and understand each other and be like, oh, okay, this is how we handle this, or this is what we did here, or here's what you do. When I'm climbing Everest or training for that, calling my mom for industry advice is not going to help me. But calling my friend who is going at the same time and trying to figure out some of the same things I am, we're able to work together and bundle our resources and help each other out. So when you are doing something big, make sure that you have someone on your team that is a peer, that can come at it from where you are, and you guys can collaborate to get to where you want to go. I also think it's really important to have a visionary. I love having visionaries. I think of Tony Robbins. So who's the Tony Robbins in your world? Where you have this idea and maybe they can even see it further and farther and bigger than what you're seeing right now. I mean, when I called my coach, I was training for Mount Everest. And then after getting to know each other and talking for a while, he convinced me that I could set a world record and climb the 7-second summits. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself yet. And so when you are doing these things and you're heading down your path, who's the visionary that's letting you see bigger, wider, and farther? Another important teammate is that problem solver, right? You broke the zipper on your sleeping bag. Who's going to fix it? We all know that person. Make sure you have one of those on your team. The problem solver is there, is always thinking or tinkering and able to fix things. So if you're building a company, if you are in trouble with too much going on in your personal life, who's able to come in and help you problem solve and make things easier and more efficient and maybe fix things that are broken? I think it's really important when we're setting these big goals to have somebody on your support team that's an accountability partner. They don't have to be in the trenches with you. They can be on the outside, but who are you reporting to? So I had a coach that I worked with for the physical aspect of my climbs. And every week we'd go over my heart rate to make sure I was resting enough and recovering enough. And was I challenging myself enough? And how is my body absorbing the training? And I knew that if I skipped a workout, I'd have to report to her and tell her I skipped a workout. That would force me to do a workout because I didn't want to tell her I missed one. Even if my workout wasn't exactly how it was supposed to be, just knowing she was there held me accountable to at least doing something. Something was better than nothing. So when you're setting big goals for yourself, an important person on your team is that accountability partner. Connectors. We all need connectors in our lives. I love being a connector, and I love it when I know people that are connectors. They're the people that you can call and say, hey, listen, I don't have 8 weeks to go to base camp. So what are we going to do? And that connector might not have the answer, but like, you know what? I heard of this company that does these tents, or maybe you should talk to this person and acclimatize here, or here's some different options for you. The connector opens doors that you didn't know existed and helps make whatever you're pursuing easier. So identify who the connector is in your life. The wellness advocates, those people that care about our mental health and our physical health. The people that are going to say, hey, you know what? I think you did enough today. It's probably a good time to rest. Or how's your headspace? It was a hard training session today. Where are you at? So anybody that's going to be a wellness advocate for you, making sure that you're staying balanced and showing up as the person that you want to be. Because if you're like me, it's easy to chase goals and get lost in the pursuit and throw balance out the window. I have to make sure I have somebody on the outside looking in, giving me a perspective that I might lose sight of. And finally, an important role who's not my favorite, but I make sure they're on the team, is the realist, the one that's going to call it like it is. I like to look at things with a rose-colored lens, and I'm overly optimistic, sometimes to the point of being a little dangerous. That realist brings me back in and reminds me, maybe it isn't best to continue. Maybe we do need to pivot or do something different. Maybe camp 3 is the highest I should go right now since I'm feeling really weak. Eat lunch here and then go back down to base camp. The realist is just allowing you to be in the moment because they're holding space to evaluate how you're showing up for yourself and making sure that you're not drinking your own Kool-Aid. So these are the people that I bring onto my team when I'm setting these big goals. There's a lot of other ones depending on where you are in your business pursuit or your athletic pursuit. But share in the comments if you have another person that you think we should consider, and let's work together as a community to achieve our Everest-like goals. I really hoped you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. We'll see you next week for the last of this series, where we cover navigating the messy middle.